So moving on to something a little more serious, last month I reported to our community that our preschool and high school pools projects were on hold at the request of the Board of Education. At that meeting, a board member also stated that there were questions that needed to be answered. And I want to clarify both statements for our community tonight in my superintendent's report. As has been described many times at these meetings and in my community updates, there are a number of formal and informal approvals that the Board of Education must go through to get these projects to a point in which the work can start. Until last month, the Board of Education had not requested a pause or a hold or a stop or the end of the projects. On the contrary, the board had done its due diligence, asked many questions, reviewed plans and information, and made informed decisions to move the projects forward each month. The board's request for a hold is a result of a communication received from the Mercer County Improvement Authority that indicated that neither project currently align with their programmatic priorities. As a result of that statement, the Board of Education sent questions for MCIA, and they hoped to get them answered. It is the board's hope that both MCIA and the board can sit down to review both projects and discuss the value in each of them for our students, our schools, and our community. We want to work with MCIA to improve our growing school district and provide programming that not only addresses our current K-12 student population, but also engages, supports, and educates our youngest children that are eligible for preschool. Many districts across the state have preschool programs in their communities. HTSD is lucky enough to have received state grant funding in the amount of $11 million to assist in building a facility. Those funds and the fact that bonding through MCIA would not increase the tax levy for the construction projects are a once-in-a-generation opportunity. The time to use these grant funds and to not impact the tax levy is quickly running out. We hope that MCIA will contact us to engage in a discussion. We are, as we stated to them, willing to meet. So that's the update on the preschool and the pools.
Thank you to my fellow colleagues for accommodating. And I am going to start, so if you can come up to the microphone, you do have 4 minutes and able to speak. Please come up and state your name for the record. Number 1, Jennifer Scarangelo. I'm sorry if I said.
Oh, my mother's maiden name Scarangelli.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Sampico.
Sorry.
That's okay. I do not want to take a lot of your time. I really don't. I am actually here because my daughter is a victim of bullying. I've been everywhere, been to school, been to meetings. I am trying to get this kid help. You guys really need to look into this bullying. Years ago, we can punch each other in the face. It hurts for a minute. 3 days later, you're sore and it goes away and you're friends again. Okay, but verbal abuse is terrible. My child's 12 years old and has been in the crisis center 4 times. Okay, we need to do something about this. You're worried about blocking people from getting in the school, but the kids that you need to get out of the school are locked inside. COVID ruined everybody. It did. These kids were forced to raise themselves. A lot of kids I know had to be home by themselves during COVID. And parents had to work. I get it, I do. But there has not been one consequence to anything that has happened to my child from the children. And I do want to reiterate that 2 boys on a daily basis tell my 12-year-old daughter, who is little and beautiful, that she is so ugly she should go kill herself. Something needs to be done. It needs to be done. I work a lot. My husband's disabled. Both my kids have medical issues. I have to work. And 8 months out of the year, I work 16-hour days. So if you think you have long days, so do I. But I am willing to quit my job to fight for my child because something is going to happen to her. I know it. I have it in my gut. She has missed so much school, throwing up every morning not to go. Her anxiety is so bad. Somebody needs to hear me. Somebody needs to help.
please.
We're going to have you leave your name and number and contact information with Dr. Altobello. Someone will be in contact with you tomorrow morning.
I appreciate it. I do. I really do.
Peg Kirkuff.
Good evening, all. It's a little bit difficult to hear back there, but hopefully we'll get all the gist of this when we get the recording of it. First of all, I do want to appreciate Mr. Kanka's plan to put a chart on the projects during the summer and a timeline on it. That's a step that it will be on the website, and therefore, hopefully, some people will pay attention to it. We can keep a tab on it. The thing I'm up here for is, again, I was up here last month and continue to be. There's no HIB report, harassment, and bullying, and, okay. Anyway, there's no HIB report, intimidation report, it's blank. There's no health report, it's blank. No suspension report, it's blank. Someone noted that there's no residency report, that was also blank. I go further down a little bit, still on agenda items, and although it's very hard for me to read this printout that I have, it has a summary of nursing services required to address specific healthcare needs of individual students. Now, on this chart, vertically there are several things, just to name a few: diabetic testing, medication administration, vision checks, referral for a child to go to a eye doctor, alcohol and drug incidents. And so there is a way that you can, and none of these names are mentioned. None of these students' names are mentioned. But really, you do have the schools. You do have the number, and you have the schools, because you have the type of incident, and above it you have the school. Alexander, Langtree, you get the point. There is a way that you could have an HIB report which tells you what went on and how it was, how many and what schools they are. There is a mechanism to do this, because if nothing else, HIPAA would say, oh, you can't tell this. So if you can tell what the school is doing with the medical part of it, you certainly should be able to let the community know the other things that are going on in the school. Speaking to, I could not hear all of her, but apparently there is a verbal issue with her child. If I'm misrepresenting that, I apologize. But there's more here. There's not nothing in these, well, let me rephrase that. There's nothing in these reports. That does not mean that there's nothing going on. And I understand, again, as I say, you want to keep these things confidential for the children, but we have a right to know. And being confidential for the children may lead to further problems. This has to be addressed, because somebody is eventually going to get hurt, or we're going to have a big suing issue in this township. This needs to be, this is not a funny thing, and we should not look lightly upon it or ignore it and pretend it'll go away. Thank you.
Thank you. Noah Barnaz.
Never, ever. We can't even tell her that. I want to tell her right now. Ever. Ever. Right.
In the interest of everyone's time, I'm going to be a little brief. My name is Noah Barnes. I live on the corner of Arena Drive and Copperfield. First, I want to thank and congratulate all the teachers and school faculty, in getting through this year. Congrats to them, present and past. And I'd like to also thank the school board for continuing this hold on this mega pre-K building outside of Robinson. It's one of those things where, a lot of people are saying we're saving $12 million, where people in the neighborhood believe it's forcing us to spend $17 million. We're not really saving money. And again, that's why it's very important that we all keep coming to these meetings and be kept up with this as well. We got a lot of questions, and we got the good folks over here who we have to email and give them our phone numbers to find out more information about everything. Something that a lot of people were not happy about was the idea that everyone who was against it was anti-preschool and anti-school, and they're only worried about it because they're old and they don't have kids or anything. I'm a younger guy, I'm 23, so it's not just old people who don't want it because they don't like the kids or anything. It's just a community effort where we think it's not something where the place is correct. So I want to thank you all for keeping a hold on it, and I implore you to keep this hold on it. And with 2.5 minutes to spare, I yield my time.
Thank you. Debbie Small?
Good evening. My name is Debbie Small, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this evening. I understand the status of the pre-K project, but I'd like to offer some thoughts. I'm incredibly proud to be part of the Robinson neighborhood, a community that came together, not in opposition, but with thoughtful questions, shared information, and a united voice for our shared future. I would like to clarify that most of us are not opposing a pre-K program. And yes, we understand the difference between daycare and preschool. And many of us are getting tired of being put into a category that we are opposing the preschool because we do not want change. This is not true. What we are opposing is the magnitude of the proposed plan on the Robinson site, which would double the current student body and staff. We are not in agreement with parking lots acting like bus loops. We do not like the amount of green space being used for pavement and the lack of an adequate traffic study being conducted. What has become undeniably clear throughout this process is that the deep care and empathy our neighborhood holds for this community was not fully acknowledged, and in many ways, the neighborhood was overlooked. For example, the April PTA meeting at Robinson was not broadly communicated to the neighboring community. This left many residents confused and concerned, with many trying to piece together incomplete or secondhand information, leading to a sense of mistrust and uncertainty. Communication should not rely solely on social media. A simple mailed meeting notice would have reached every household, just as our tax bills do. The neighborhood still has some unanswered questions. Have there been any adjustments in the timeline of the grant, in that you must commit all of the funds by August 31st, 2026, and liquidate them by September 30th, 2026? Why is Hamilton Township the only public school district in Mercer County that seems to be opting for a centralized pre-K? What other districts in the state have you researched or consulted that are currently implementing a centralized program? Should the centralized pre-K program get built, what are the terms with the grant money that this building actually needs to stay a pre-K before you can repurpose it for other uses? The strategic plan references repurposing an elementary school. So what is the long-term plan here for Robinson? Because the magnitude of space taken up by the pre-K leaves minimal space for Robinson to ever expand. If the centralized pre-K building is meant to consolidate existing pre-K programs to free up classroom space, how does this plan create additional opportunities for families rather than simply reshuffling the current students? Given the scale and impact of this project, I respectfully ask the board to consider holding a town hall-style meeting if this plan proceeds in any form. Our community deserves an open, honest space for real dialogue where questions can be asked, answers shared, and trust built through collaboration. This is not a criticism, but a hopeful call for a greater transparency and partnership. Thank you.
Thank you. John Muka?
Madam President, Dr. Rocco, members of the school board, good evening. Thank you for the time to address you tonight. I feel a little bit like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day. I keep asking the same questions over and over again. We don't get any answers. We don't get any satisfactory answers. We simply get the same narrative repeated over and over again. But, I'm willing to do it again. So let me just focus on the pre-K here and the pool project. I just suddenly realized that the bonds are both of those projects, and the bonds are held up. So this project is not being put on hold by the school board or by the superintendent. It's stopped because the MCIA is not going to give them money under these circumstances. It kind of reflects the first submission for the 3 sites, resulting in only Robinson being authorized by the state for the state funding. So it seems like in the April meeting, we're full speed ahead. Stacy Byrne, the minority member of this school board, she made a motion to delay further progress on this or further approvals on it and take a chance to think through what we're actually doing. She couldn't even get a second to that motion. And then the next month, it's on hold. So here's the question I've asked before. I always ask these questions in emails before I come here. I often repeat them in another email afterwards. It's just ignored. I can count on the fingers of three fingers of my hand the time I actually got a response, and it wasn't a reasonable response to the questions I was asking. But I'm willing to try it again. So what exactly are the other off-ramps or decision points that still remain for this project? We have any answers? Okay, we don't answer questions in this meeting. And for the most part, we don't answer questions in emails or in any other method either. It's just a strange world that we all live in here together for the purpose of this monthly meeting. So what are those off-ramps? What are the decision points? What should we be doing to assure that this project moves forward? I'll repeat Debbie's question from a moment ago. Does this endanger the funding from the state because we're going to be delayed in meeting the requirements of the letter that they sent us in December, specifying that in September of 2026, the project must be complete? What is the risk we're taking on that? What are the costs of the alternative of doing something along a decentralized process, maybe 3 schools instead of 1, adding on? Now, in the strategic plan, the facility strategic plan, it calls for adding classroom space, possibly at other locations, for the purposes of alleviating the crowding that we have. So that's a built-in. That was one of the things considered by the facility strategic planning folks. Where are they? Where are all these people that worked on this? Were there committees? Were there people that were championing these things that are experts in these aspects that can answer these questions? So what are we going to do? This is the future of Hamilton education here. Let's do it the right way. Let's take this pause and think through what we're about to do and come up with some alternatives that we might need if MCIA does not actually approve all these bonds. And keep in mind, we have to pay the bonds back in 10 years, and we have to pay interest on the bonds in the meantime. So the tax may not go up right now, but how do you stop it from going up in the future? Thank you.
Thank you. Arvinna Brown.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. My name is Marvina Brown. I'm PTA president at Lalor Elementary School. And many of you, or some of you, may recognize me for advocating for children being bullied in the schools. And my heart goes out to that mother. I know what it's like to sit up at home with a crying child. It's not just an assassination of character, it's an assassination of their soul. It's heart-wrenching when your child goes through that and that's being chipped away and you try to build it back up as a parent. So I'm here in solidarity with her and in hopes that we can holistically treat this from the target and the aggressor point of view to hold accountability, mandatory a process to promote empathy and understanding that this mean talk, this evil talk, this talk that tears down and is relentless can change a person. They can carry that year after year, especially being in the same grade, traveling through the same school system, seeing the same kids. It never leaves you. So I would appreciate if we could work together to try to holistically address these issues in a more detailed way, because our kids need more. Times are different. These are our COVID kids, said with it's a term of endearment for sure. These are our COVID kids, and we do see a lot lacking. So we would like a little slack picked up as a community. And speaking of community, we had a PTA meeting. I want to give a huge, super big thank you to Dr. Artabello, Dr. Ferreira, and Stanton. They were all invited, and Dr. Artabello, you addressed questions, concerns of the community. Bullying was a big topic of the night. We are working on building the bridges to you answered questions, as many as that came at you, you had an answer or a concern, empathy, and you spent time addressing the questions and concerns of our parents. Dr. Ferreira, you stayed and you engaged way after the meeting was over. That was so appreciative. That was so appreciated. Our community, our mothers, a lot of the conversation started after the meeting. They just more was in a mode of taking in the presentation and what was being said, but it is a start. It is a start, and this is something that maybe the board can maybe be a little more proactive to reach out to the schools and continue something like this. We didn't get to carry on because it's the end of the school year, but it was a great way to set the tone, and it's something that we can actually build upon. Our community can actually start to grow and the connections can be made. My last point is we are a multicultural, very diverse, multilingual community. There are a lot of challenges when it comes to parents supporting their kids academically. If we could have something at the beginning of the school year, a video link in the school app, this is how you get your information translated. In Dojo, a lot of the correspondence that comes through Dojo, all of our PTA information is at least translated in one language. But if we could just educate people on how to get their community correspondence through the school translated to something they can understand, it will help the parents navigate better and help them support their children better. But we are building a bigger, better community, and thank you for coming to our school and accepting the invitation. We appreciate it, and there is improvement already. We're looking forward to building next year. Thank you.
Thank you. So that does conclude our first hearing of the public, and I'm going to move on to our agenda items. Peg Kirkuff.
Hello again. This is just going to be brief. I am glad that the pre-K project is on hold. I think it's incumbent upon all of you to keep us informed about where it is. And at the last meeting, I remember that someone said that it was put on hold because of the questions of the people on the board. It would be interesting to hear some of those particular questions by the board members. And I wonder how much they coordinate with the questions of the residents and the community members around Robinson. I think this has been an interesting experience, to say the least, and has opened up a lot of people's eyes that we need to pay attention. We have to be at these meetings, and we have to keep our eyes on the ball. Thank you.
Thank you. John Muka?
Once again, I'm John Muka, lifelong Hamilton resident. Thank you again for the time to address you tonight. You know, there's a saying I lived by when I was in my corporate career, facing reality together. Now, I think all of you are good people. You're trying to do the best you can. It's very difficult. You know, I try to reflect on my kids coming up in the public schools and the Catholic school, and it was so much easier back then. We have so many influences, challenges. The state of New Jersey is not particularly helpful all the time, and all these encroachments into our local schools. But I still remember the first parents' night that I went to at Hamilton High West when my oldest son went there. And Carl Rechtenwald, who's the band director, along with Tom Rechtenwald, two great people, he started out his presentation saying, when I was growing up, my parents made it very simple. My father said, A is average, B is below average, C means can't go out, and D means don't come home. And I adopted that as my philosophy with my kids. And they still joke about it now, but they did their work in high school, and they've been very successful since. And I thank God for Hamilton West. They did a great job for my kids. But we have to face some reality here. We're going to spend $293 million in this new budget. It's a huge undertaking, and there's a lot of good people in the community that want to work with you, and I'm one of them. So don't keep us on the outside. We have expertise. These grandparents, these folks that are retired, they have time. They have expertise and time that they're willing to get involved with. A lot of people from the Robinson School area would be here tonight, except it's just very inconvenient to stay this long. But there's some bad news that we got to face in terms of performance. And these are the scores that we got from the state of New Jersey earlier in the year. Now, there's quite a range here. We have 23 schools. 16 of the 23 are in the bottom third of percentile rank. And that includes 2 out of 3 of the high schools and all 3 of our middle schools. They're in the bottom third. There's another 4 schools that are in the middle third, and there's actually 3 schools that are in the top 1/3. The 2 Yardville elementary schools and the Pace Charter School. So we have a range here, so we know we can do it. It's possible. And I'm hoping that the strategic plan, the facility strategic plan, can be built into this to make a change for the better in all these areas. But we can help you, so don't keep us on the outside. Let's actually schedule a town hall meeting and prepare in depth to do it the right way from the beginning and take advantage of all the people in Hamilton that do want to get involved and may not mind spending more money in taxes if it's going to do a job for our kids. So please consider that. Have a wonderful summer break. Enjoy it. And you know, we'll be back together all too soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Benda Julian?
Hi, Board. One thing I wanted to say is, I don't know if the community knows, and the board, but right now there's actually a bill up in front of the Education Committee at New Jersey. It's Assembly Bill 5717. It is a framework and a pathway towards universal pre-K. It's establishing a task force to roll out universal pre-K. So it's coming down the pipeline. Trying to get a building built and a program in place before it's mandated by the state, I think is a great idea, but I've talked about that. That's not why I was going to come up. I'm actually wanting to talk about option 2 in high school for some of our courses. I want to talk about phys ed option 2. It is the ability of a child who is in an external sport year-round to be able to not participate in physical education in the school and get optioned out to be able to take another class, an academic, or a prep period. My child is in the Mercer rowing program, and it is a very strenuous, full-year commitment. It's daily. He comes home from school and immediately fuels up and gets over to Mercer, to the lake, and he is there from 4 o'clock until 7:30 every day. And then when regattas start, it's even more intense. It's weekends and weekend regattas. It is a lot of work. And from what I've been told at Steinert by his guidance counselor is, our district doesn't really approve option 2. We know that it's out there, but we don't allow our students to use it. Now, if you're in a sport that's maybe only a season, I can see that. You're not getting the needed hours to participate and fill out what you need. I believe it's 150 minutes a week is what I have down here. Let me read it. You can use option 2 to be awarded as PE credits for external sports that match state standards, 150 minutes per week, and clear learning outcomes. Mercer's rowing program far exceeds that standard. Mercer's program is serious training. It's not a free ride to get out of a class. It's a year-round structured, supervised, athletic, aligned program with NJEA DOE PE learning standards. It is a full playlist. They are learning cardio, weightlifting, flexibility, team psychology, nutrition, and more. You know, it is a program far beyond anything we can learn within our physical education class. And I just don't understand why we aren't, as a district, allowing these athletes just that period back. I know my child has also got an IEP and is in a study skills class. So he's already down one academic in his course, and to be able to free up a part of his schedule out of that would be helpful to us. And so that's why I come here, and I had a lot more to say, but I'm very quickly running out of time. I would love to talk to you guys more about it. Come see me after. Thank you, guys.